Alright learners, so now in the previous video we actually drew up the Creditors Journal, the Creditors Allowances and the Cash Payments Journal. And I trust that you've done lots of practicing and you're quite happy as to when the entries go into which journal. And now I'm going to take the same exercise that I did in the video, the Macquabie's Corner Store, and I'm going to post that to the ledger with you. Alright, now let's just look at the posting to the ledger, and let's start with the general ledger. Remember, we're not doing all of the accounts, we are picking out certain accounts, and this is something you need to do because by the end of grade 9 going into grade 10 you will be asked to probably only do a few ledger accounts, not the whole ledger accounts. So you need to become familiar with searching for the accounts that we need. And so if we're looking at the trading stock, and if I go back and look in my journals, I will see that I had trading stock here in my creditors journal when I bought an account. I had trading stock in the creditors allowances when I returned, and I had trading stock in the bank when I again bought, but this time for cash. So all three of those have to come in. You can do it in any order you want, but all of them will be on the 31st of October because they're all totals. So we bought, let's start at the top, we bought trading stock for 840. We buying, so we adding on to our trading stock. That trading stock was bought on credit. So that you see the 840 there, it's also in the creditors control. And so we're going to have creditors control here. And this is in the CJ. Now the double entry for that, this trading stock, this 840, it's part of this creditors control. And so the double entry for that is going to go into your creditors control. But just like we did with our bank when we did our cash payments and cash receipts, I'm not going to put each individual amount separately into the creditors control. I've already put it down separately. There's no point in repeating it all. And imagine if you had hundreds of entries. So you owe your creditors 11,941. You owe your creditors. You're increasing the amount that you owe. So you're crediting the creditor. So just stop there. Your double entry, you will have debited trading stock. If you were doing the whole ledger, you would debit equipment because you're buying. You debit consumable stores. You debit repairs. You debit advertisement. You would have debited all of those accounts. All of those will be debited, and the double entry for all of those equals this 11,000. And so in this creditors control, just like we did when we did the bank account, we're not going to write trading stock, equipment, consumable stores. We are going to write, and there's an option now. You can either write total purchases, and you can only use the word total when there is a total. This is a total, all right? It's coming from your CJ. It's a total of more than one item. You can also write sundry accounts, and your teacher will probably tell you which one they prefer, but both are totally acceptable. And so your creditors control will be B4. Now obviously I can't do a trial balance at this stage because I'm not doing the whole ledger. All right. If I move into the allowances journal, I return some trading stock. So my trading stock is going to go down. I'm minusing out 300. And I return that to my creditors. So it's creditors control, CAJ. Now that 300 Rand there is part of this total. And this is the total amount that I'm getting as an allowance from my creditors. I'm reducing the account. I've returned goods to them, so I won't be paying them for that. So I'm going to minus out 4819 on the 31st, and you could total allowances because it's not only just your trading stock. Remember, if you look back here, you also returned equipment, and there was also a reduction on your advertising. So that is a total there. So that's why you say total allowances or you can say sundry accounts. And then in the cash payments journal, you bought some trading stock for 100, so you're adding onto your trading stock, but that 100 is part of the bank. Now I'm not doing the bank account here, but it doesn't mean there isn't a bank. There is a bank, and the details is going to be bank from the cash payments journal. I'm just doing a few of the accounts. All right, now I'm going to do another creditors account with you to revise. So I'm going to go to Caxton now. Caxton had an opening balance of 900. Now we want to try and get this into date order. So if I look here in my creditors journal, Caxton was on the 7th. In the allowances journal was on the 16th, and in the payments was on the 6th. So I'm going to try and get that into date order. So the 6th would be the first one. So on the 6th, now, on the 6th over here, when I paid him, I gave him check number 64. So I'm going to write check 64, and this is from the payments journal. Now this is a creditor, a liability. When I increase them, I credit, and when I decrease, I debit. So I paid him 900 Rand, so I'm going to debit. The balance has now gone to nothing. And so I can, here next to Caxton, write in CL3. Right, the next one in the date order will be the 7th. So on the 7th, now this is when I bought. So I got invoice number 101. This is the creditors journal. Now because I'm buying, I owe him more money, and I owed him 2,600, and so the balance is now 2,600. All right, so next to Caxton here in your creditors journal, CL3. And then on the 16th, remember, that was, we were overcharged for our advertising, so we got an allowance for 520. So there was, this is the 16th. Now remember, while we're writing debit note here, the CAJ, because I'm going to debit the account, I'm getting an allowance of 520. I'm minusing out of the account. I'm debiting, so that's why there's a debit note there. And I will subtract that, and I get an amount of 2080. Now I want you to finish the rest of these creditors and then to do your creditors list. Right, so just quickly check. SS Glance didn't have an opening balance, so you don't have to write that. You might just have this one entry of an invoice for 213 Rand credit because you're increasing his account. OK Grocers had a balance of 3,000. On the 11th, we bought more goods from him, so we credited the account, we added on. On the 20th, we paid him, so we debit the account, we owe him 290. Kerman, again, you do not have to write the opening balance. On the 23rd, we bought the 2 couches, so we credit, we owe him 7,998. We then returned, so we got a debit note for one of their couches of 3,999, and so we only owe now for the other one 3,999. And then finally, if you put those into your creditors list, like the debtors, the creditors list is there just to show what you owe each creditor. You don't owe Jamison anything, so it's not really essential to write it. You could have left it out, but on your worksheet it had it, so that's why you probably have the note. That tells me that I owe my creditors of 6,582. Now, how do you check yourself? How do you check that you have entered everything correctly? You go back to your creditors control account. Control is where you control them all, and your final total balance that is brought down must equal 6,582, and those two must be equal. And providing the two of them are equal, then you have more than probably made the correct double entries or the correct amounts. Yes, there are some mistakes you could have made. You could have put the wrong amount totally, or you might have left an entry totally out. But it goes a long way for checking that you have done these entries. Right, learners, so I've actually combined in one lesson the journals and the ledgers here. Again, now you need to go further and practice these creditors journal and creditors allowances journal with posting to the ledger. And then finally, you'll be ready to start bringing all the journals together. All right, good luck and do lots of practicing.